Hello there, welcome. I hope you are having a great day today. My name is Tracy. I'm so glad you are here with me today. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, I do lots of different types of videos. I am a travel teacher. I share videos about that, about thrifting, to resell for a profit, and I also share Bible study videos. Today is a Bible study video, and we're going to be looking at Leviticus chapters 24, 25, and 26. If you haven't had a chance to hit the subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. So let's jump into our first chapter today, which is Leviticus chapter 24. At the beginning of today's chapter, we can see some discussion about pure oil and holy bread. We read about how the Lord told Moses, "Command the people of Israel to bring you pure oil of pressed olives for the light, to keep the lamps burning continually. This is the lampstand that stands in the tabernacle in front of the inner curtain that shields the ark of the covenant. Aaron must keep the lamps burning in the Lord's presence all night. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation. Aaron and the priests must tend the lamps on the pure gold lampstand continually in the Lord's presence." So at this time, we know we're still in the Old Testament, and this was part of the rules for worship when it came to the tabernacle. This again was a tent that was moved, and there were certain ways that things had to be set up, and this tells us about always keeping that light lit and going. Now, in the second half of this chapter, we see some different examples about how different crimes should be punished. And there is one situation where there is a man, and it says, I'm reading verse 11. Well, actually, let me back up to verse 10. One day, a man who had an Israelite mother and an Egyptian father came out of his tent and got into a fight with one of the Israelite men. During the fight, this son of an Israelite woman blasphemed the name of the Lord with a curse. So the man was brought to Moses for judgment, and what happens is God instructs everyone to stone this man to death for basically taking the Lord's name in vain. And I want to share with you a footnote. It says, the punishment for blasphemy, which is cursing God, seems extreme by modern standards, but it shows how seriously God expects us to take our relationship with Him. Many use God's name in swearing or act as though He doesn't exist. We should be careful how we speak and act, treating God with reverence. Eventually, He will have the last word. And this is just a great reminder that even today, I know we're reading about the Old Testament, but even today, we should approach God with reverence. We should use His name with reverence. And God is just as powerful today as He was back then. Leviticus chapter 25. In this chapter, we see God give instructions to Moses when he is on Mount Sinai about observing what was called the Sabbath year. And what this meant is every 6 years, after the 6th year ended, the next following year should be a Sabbath or a rest for the land. So no crops were to be planted or harvested. The land was to be allowed to rest completely during that 7th year, just like we have a Sabbath day of rest today. Now, there was also talk in this chapter about something called the year of Jubilee. In verse 8, it says, in addition, you must count off 7 Sabbath years, 7 sets of 7 years, adding up to 49 years in all. Then, on the Day of Atonement in the 50th year, blow the ram's horn loud and long throughout the land. It also says that set this year apart as a holy time to proclaim freedom throughout the land for all who live there. It will be a jubilee year for you, when each of you may return to the land that belonged to your ancestors and return to your own clan. This 50th year will be a jubilee for you. During that year, you must not plant your fields or store away any of the crops. Goes on to say it will be a jubilee year for you. And here's another important aspect to this year jubilee. It says, when you make an agreement with your neighbor to buy or sell property, you must not take advantage of each other. When you buy land from your neighbor, the price you pay must be based on the number of years since the last jubilee. The seller must set the price by taking into account the number of years remaining until the next year of jubilee. The more years until the next jubilee, the higher the price. The fewer years, the lower the price. After all, the person selling the land is actually selling you a certain number of harvests. Show your fear of God by not taking advantage of each other. I am the Lord your God. Now, my footnote about the year of Jubilee says that it was meant to be celebrated every 50 years, and it included, this is the catch, it included canceling all debts, freeing all slaves, and returning to its original owners all land that had been sold. There is no indication in the Bible that the year of Jubilee was ever carried out. So we see here kind of the rules concerning the year of Jubilee, but according to my footnote, there's not ever another mention in the Bible that this actually happened, that the year of Jubilee was ever carried out. If Israel had followed this practice faithfully, they would have been a society without permanent poverty. So I just thought that was an interesting footnote to go along with that chapter. Leviticus chapter 26 begins by talking about how God would bless the people for their obedience. And it kind of starts with a warning. Verse 1 says, do not make idols or set up carved images or sacred pillars or sculptured stones in your land so you may worship them. I am the Lord your God. So again, we see God is a jealous God. It goes on to talk about how God will bless those who do not worship others and who follow his commands. In the middle of the chapter, we see a shift. The shift actually shows us some of the punishments people could expect to experience for their disobedience when they did not obey God's commands. My footnote summarizes this chapter very well. It says, the chapter presents the two paths that God set before the people, obedience and disobedience. We wonder, it's easy for us today because we can look back and watch these things happen. We have access to the Bible. The people during this time period didn't have the Bible. They couldn't see what was coming down the lane. So we wonder how they could deceive themselves by worshiping these things made of wood and stone. Yet God could well give us the same warning, for we are prone to put idols before Him today. So even though I may not carve a stone, an idol out of stone, and actually worship that, I may be worshiping other things. Anything that we put before God is an idol. It could be our jobs. It could be our children. It could be our spouse. It could be our homes. It could be our money. Anything that we put before God is considered to be an idol. Idolatry is making anything more important than God, and our lives are full of that temptation. Money, appearance, success, relationships, reputation, security, these are all today's idols. As you look at these false gods that promise everything you may want, does idolatry seem so far removed from your experience? So something for us all, me included, to think about. So that wraps up Leviticus chapters 24, 25, and 26. Please, if you have not already hit that subscribe button, do so. Like this video, share it with someone that you think may be interested. Also, I encourage you to go check out my videos about how I'm in the process of preparing to go to the Holy Land. I'm actually doing a challenge where I am trying to thrift my way to the Holy Land. So I would appreciate it if you would go check out those videos as well. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.